When I was in my 9 to 5, I thought I was years away from freedom. But eventually, when I got fired from my 9 to 5, I built an Airbnb business that I called Pariah Living, and I did so to 10K per month. And it runs on about 3 to 4 hours per week, regardless of wherever I am in the world, unless I'm trying to scale it like crazy. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I did that in 3 steps so you can do it to try and hit 5 or 10K per month with other people's Airbnbs. And you can do that even if you feel like you're not a business owner, even if you feel like you're not capable. And I'm also going to show you why this is not like some of those scammy courses that you've seen online. But a bit of backstory is that I was also in a 9 to 5 as well, and I was stuck there. I had the amazing salary, but I felt like I had so much wasted potential. I watched other people building lives that they really wanted, and I tried all the things. I listened to podcasts, I watched the YouTube videos, and nothing stuck. I even tried drop shipping. I did drop shipping in COVID, and it just didn't work for me. And eventually I took the plunge and I bought a course for 15K on how to build Airbnbs and invest in properties to do so. But investing in properties is risky. It's really, really risky. And I got the short end of that stick and was eventually down 4K after about 7 or 8 months in, where I was expecting to be 40K in the other side. And this was a very, very tough period for me, because not only that, but I got fired from my job at that point. And that was like a very, very, very scary period. But it was year 2 when things really turned around for me, because instead of investing into properties, I just took those skills and provided a service to people who owned properties. So I became an Airbnb host for landlords and just took a percentage of the fee. And that's a system that's a lot more scalable, because it allowed me to build automated systems and provide that service for them and just focus on sales and just close some deals. And I did. I closed 15 deals in that year and managed to recoup all that money, hired a ton of people, fired a ton of people. And even in that period, I managed to travel for 6 months of that year. And I'm going to break down the 3-step framework that I used to get that. And I'll show you that in just a moment as well. But that year 2 really was the turning point for me. And this is ultimately what helps me to live the life I have. It allows me to start a podcast. It allows me to work, live, and chill in places like Bali, where I'm recording this video right now. And year 3 since then has just been a totally different experience for me. I've just wanted to travel. I've wanted to explore and use this freedom that I've created for myself. Here I'm chilling in Albania. And, for you, like, freedom might be something totally different. Like, I realize you probably see a lot of people online and they're just waving their lifestyle in front of you saying, oh, look at me. And it's kind of scammy, and some people are dishonest in the way they market. Some people will tell you that their way is the only way. I'm not going to say that to you. This is just a way that you can just generate money. That's all it is. And what you decide to do with that freedom is up to you. This is just the way I like to live my life and what I wanted to do instead of being in a 9 to 5. But for you, it might be just spend more time with your kids. It might be just the fact that you want to work on a Tuesday and a Wednesday instead of Monday to Friday. It's totally up to you. This is just what I like to do with my life. So this is just a disclaimer to say that, hey, I'm not trying to say you need my life. It's here's what I've done with my freedom. You can do what you want with your freedom as well. And going into the system. So let's look at the 3 steps I used to actually build this freedom in a bit more granular detail. And I think you'll be able to then piece together how you can start to acquire clients and then be able to systemize this yourself. And you'll understand this when I show you these 3 systems. So the service itself, right? As I mentioned, all you're doing is providing a service to somebody who owns a property. You list their property on places like Airbnb, Booking.com, and then you advertise that for them and take care of the operations and make sure the property's clean, make sure the photographs are taken well, make sure the property has enough linen, and make sure that it gets cleaned every time somebody checks in and checks out. And you're making sure that the calendar is filled and filled at the right price. That is all things that you can learn, and these are all things that you can systemize. Here you can see my business, Pariah Living. You can go find me on Instagram. You can see we're a real business. You can see we're not some fake scammers. You can find my company in the UK on Company's House. If you want to search me up, go and do so. That's fine. You can see my company accounts there as well. Disclaimer out of the way. That is all the service you are going to be doing. That is literally it. It is a very, very simple business to run, and it's a very simple business when you look at it from a bird's eye. You're just doing something for somebody and taking a fee for it. And so, right, the next part then is, right, you understand the service, you understand how you're going to position this to a landlord. How do we find the landlords? How do we find clients? So let's go into sales. Now, this is something that I took to quite well because my 9 to 5 that you saw me in earlier in that video was sales. I was in sales for 8 years. And so naturally, I took to this part a lot easier than a lot of people who bought that 15K course I bought. And so you can use things like Meta. Meta is just like the nicest way to be able to like directly pay to be positioned in front of somebody and then to turn those leads into clients, because they're obviously worth a lot to you if you can convert them into paying clients. And Meta is a good way you can do that. It's a very scalable way to get in front of landlords. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to like pay to be put in front of people just yet, maybe your first step might be what I was doing, which was going to networking events and literally just telling every single person I could meet that I was trying to build a business. I was trying to get out my 9 to 5. I wanted to build a dream life for myself where I could travel, explore, adventure, and meet new people who were also like me and wanted to do the same. That was the way I spoke about it. I didn't say, hey, I want to run Airbnbs forever. I said, hey, I'm trying to change my life. And people remembered that, and people connected with that, and people actually introduced me to clients who then wanted to work with me. And so do not underestimate the power of just simply telling your story and just telling people why you're doing what you're doing. Nobody gives a shit about the fact that you're running Airbnbs. They care about why you're doing it, and you've got to share that with them when you're talking to them. And this can be literally somebody you're going and buying a coffee from, like your local barista. I used to go in and talk to them, and they'd say like, oh, how's your day going? How are you doing? And I would always just gently say, I'm working on my business. And everyone you say that to is always going to be curious and say, well, what's your business? Tell me about it. And you tell them about it, you give them your why, and you never know. They might know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, or maybe they're a client themselves. You never know. And it just comes down to just telling everyone what you're doing and seeing what comes back your way. And this is, if you think about it, you know, your business right now might not be, nobody's aware that you actually have a business. You've got to make people aware that you have an Airbnb business in order for you to find clients for that Airbnb business. So meta ads, telling your story, and then you can go and try and find landlords who advertise directly. So they advertise on, in the UK at least, places like OpenRent and Gumtree for long-term tenants. So long-term tenants is, think of like renting it for a year or for 12 months or 24 months or whatever. You can then reach out to them and say, hey, I've got an alternative service. I can earn you more money, and I can make sure that your property stays in a hotel condition because we clean it every week. We visit it every week. It gets maintenance all the time. And you earn more money. So not only are you earning more, you're also making sure your investment, this thing that you've invested so much money in, stays in the condition that you wanted to stay in, which you can't get from a tenant, which you only see once per year when you visit the property. So that's it. So that's how we actually design the service. That's how we find clients. And then once you actually get those clients, you want to start to build out the systems. You don't want a full-time job. You want to have something that's running without you, that's elegant, that's clean, and that you can trust that is doing its thing while you're like me in Bali, or maybe you're with your kids or going to watch them play football, or just spending more time to work on things that you really care about, something that you're passionate about. You need systems in your business in order for you to be able to do that. So I'm going to explain a few of the systems that I run now that are basically the foundational pillars of my business, and you can sort of have a look at that yourself. And by the way, if you want to like get a bit more of a thorough breakdown of this like industry before you dive head first, if you click the link in the description, I've got 7 days, 1 week worth of emails that I can send to you, which I basically just break down the entire industry as a whole, show you some of the things that I wish I knew before I started. So you can just make a bit more of an informed decision. You can obviously unsubscribe if you don't like them. It's completely free. There's no charge or anything like that. And I share some extra videos and Loom videos that I share with my one-to-one clients. And if you want that, just click the link below and I'll certainly send them over to you. So moving on from that, the systems, right? The systems that you're going to need are as follows. One is uplisting. That's the one I use. There's many channel managers like this. This is personally the one that runs really well for me. This just sits underneath Airbnb, Booking.com, and all these other platforms that you will use, and make sure that you don't get double booking. So if somebody books on Airbnb, that means uplisting will take it off Booking.com. You can also centrally message all guests who are staying with you from this platform, as well as loads of other cool features that you can use to make sure that your Airbnb management business runs effectively and efficiently. Price labs. You might remember I mentioned about filling your clients' calendars. This is how you're going to do that. You're going to make sure that Price Labs is given the right pricing data, so it knows to price your property at the right level, so it gets booked. For example, if you put in £100 as your base price, it might go up a little bit one day to 111, might go down to 96 one day, And then it might remember that there's a Beyonce concert next week, or that there's a football match that weekend, and it will price a little bit higher based on the demand that it knows is going to be coming on those nights. Super, super effective piece of kit that's going to be able to make sure that you price effectively and ultimately make as much money for your clients as you can, and ultimately for your business. Underneath that, my team are all using Notion. I've built out years worth of SOPs and processes for every single thing. If this happens, do this. If that happens, do that. All of that sits within Notion that my virtual assistants and team members can use if and when things happen, because it's a hospitality business and a lot of things can and do happen. And it's about having the right procedures in place such that people who are in your team, or if it's early on, you might be doing this yourself, but certainly when you hire and you build a virtual assistants, they're going to be able to do that for you. And you can just make sure that they know what to do, and you do so in a place like Notion. Slack and WhatsApp is how we communicate with clients and cleaning teams. So the cleaning teams know how much linen to bring, when the cleaning is happening, when the checkout is happening. And Slack is where we have all our comms with our clients, rather, I should say. And so all this together, the service that you build, the sales that you run, and then the systems that you build after you close those sales are what's going to compound together to build you out that freedom. That's exactly how I built my business. And whatever the freedom is to you, this is how you're going to be able to do this. A very, very simple and elegant way to find clients, close them, and then systemize the fulfillment of what you do for those clients. And you can see, like, I've got my team, we've got Daniel and Angelica. Since even screenshotting that, we've hired more team. We've got Milan and Elsie. And the team just keeps growing and growing. And honestly, I've got my team members helping the other team members, training them. We've got people building processes without me now. And this is just a beautiful to witness your own creation start to like do its thing without you. And to be able to provide for other people who are working with me and give them a good life and give them commission and be able to support them on their journey. It's just such an amazing feeling. It's so cool. And if you think about, right, let's just zoom in on the 9 to 5 here. Let's zoom in on employment. I like to think of employment as a pyramid, right? And if you think of it, right, you're at the bottom of the pyramid, you get like a nice job. It's quite, you've got a lot of space. You can move laterally. There's loads of ways you can go. But as you get further and further in, as I was doing, and as you're maybe doing yourself, it gets more restricted. It gets more restricted the further it goes. The ceiling comes closer, and you can't really move side to side anymore because you're entrenched in this path that you've dug for yourself. And if you think about it now, imagine you just like took the decision to go and do this Airbnb stuff, or you went and got to do Forex or whatever the hell it is that you feel like is going to get you out of where you are to where you want to go. It might start off as something that you're, just trying out, but as you get further and further in, it's going to get less difficult and get more rewarding and more fulfilling and more possible the ways that you can go. And this is ultimately infinite. This pyramid here, it just keeps going and going and going, and you can just do more with it the more you stay in it. And I'm really understanding that now as I'm 3 years into my journey and I'm meeting so many amazing people who are like-minded like me. I'm starting to do the podcast I started last year. I'm starting to make content to help other people. This was never my intention when I came into this. And now I just feel like it's part of my purpose to help other people to sort of break away from that trap that I felt like I'd gotten into after university. And this is a really good way to help conceptualize what is on the other side of that for you. If you do try and go with Airbnbs, or you do try and just build any old business that you can systemize and have run by yourself. And again, this is what is on the other side for me. I've got all of my systems in place, all of the things I've just explained there. I've got my full calendars because I price it well. My team are able to handle that. And the business does 120K per year, and it's going to do more and more the more we keep adding to it. This is just January to December this year, and we're just over halfway through the year, and it's going super well. So you can see that this works. This is just my business. I'm not trying to sell you like a course necessarily. I'm just sharing with you like, this is what I've done. This is what works for me. This is how I'm living the life I live. And if you can take something from that, great. I've worked with several people so far, like Jack. I've helped Jack with his sales. That was something that he was very stuck on, and he was kind of uncomfortable about what he was selling, and just helping him get to a right place, to where he felt confident in how he approached landlords and how he spoke to people. And just the other day, this is literally a screenshot from a few days ago, he told me that he got his third deal in 90 days, and this was the deal that he was waiting on to be able to then quit his job. That was the tipping point for him to be able to say, I am leaving my 9 to 5 job that was sucking my soul away. And that's just like so cool to be able to just support him on his journey. And he's ultimately just carved out this new path for himself. And, you know, he's had such a complete identity shift because of this. And he now realizes just what he has in the tank from just taking that leap, you know, committing and then learning along the way and just staying in the game until it works. So again, like if you want to just have a look at the industry a bit more, I appreciate this is all maybe a bit new to you if you've never heard of this before. If you want to just like gauge the industry a bit more before like taking any real action, the link below in the description, you can get those 7 days worth of emails where I break it down each day for you in a little bit more detail. So you can then basically after those 7 days decide if you want to do it or maybe take the plunge yourself. Even without me, you can use that information yourself. Just click that link, pop your email in. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. And yeah, I hope this was somewhat useful for you. And if you have any questions, you can just drop me a DM on Instagram, and best of luck to you.